He said he wasn't expecting to speak when he comes to the fucking speech reading now.
No, this is not my notes for a speech, mate, but I thought we were communicating better, you and I.
We'll work on that, Jace.
Hold that, bro. 40 billion bucks, $40 billion a year, maybe 50. There's a school in the Northern Territory with 85% Indigenous folks. 85% Indigenous school kids. Bit lower? No, that's all right, that's perfect. And they can't get a teacher. $40 billion, and we can't get a teacher in the Northern Territory for a school that's got 85% Indigenous. So where does the money go? Where does the money go? Oh, I want to join some dots for you today, if I can, folks. I love diving into history, and I guess as 2020 has taught me, there's so much to learn and look back on. In 1905, the Russian leader at the time of a socialist democratic party, I want you to remember that, Socialist Democratic Party. In 1905, he gave amnesty to 250,000 Russian communists. They flooded back into Russia. Better English. Flooded back into Russia. What do you reckon happened over the next 10 years? I'll tell you where it landed. In 1917, you may have heard of it, the Bolshevik Revolution. Millions upon millions of people died because of what happened under that revolution, the Red Revolution. It was horrific, it was disgusting. And the people that funded the Red Revolution started with a guy named, surname Warburg, first name Paul. And if you don't know who he is, he's one of the 9 that took the trip to Jekyll Island. And from that, they created the Federal Reserve, the greatest Ponzi scheme on the planet, and the one that suppresses people. Every single person walking around here today is suppressed by that system, the fiat currency system. In 1971, and that was a year of significant change for many things, not just because of Nixon going off the gold standard, but the petrodollar. But you heard the ladies here, Karen and that, talking before. In 1971, Whitlam put us into the Lima Declaration. Whitlam did so many bad things to our country. And he was only usurped, if I can say that, by Bob Hawke. Now, I heard John Riddoch say Bob Hawke was a good Prime Minister. I like John Riddoch. I think John Riddoch's great. Or Ruddock, sorry. I think he's great. I think he's wonderful for the New South Wales Parliament. I think he holds them to account. But I have to say, John, I disagree with you on that. The Australian people didn't ask for the Australia Act. We have our 1901 Commonwealth Constitution. That's ours. It should be untouchable. But Labor, mostly Labor, got their grubby little hands on it. And if you look at the Hansard, you'll hear people like Bob Hawke trying to push reform through and saying the bloody Constitution. So back at a point in time, it actually stood in the way. And remember when I said the Russian Socialist Democratic Party? If you go to page 4 of Labor's Constitution, what you'll see there is exactly those 3 words. We are a Socialist Democratic Party. Now, you've got to ask yourself, how did the Labor Party get founded? Where was it formed? Actually, before I do that, 44, John, you were wrong, you said 46. 44 referendums we've had in our history. 8 have passed. But you're right on the next point. Labor have put forward 25 referendums out of the 44. We agreed on 1. So how was the Labor Party formed? Who here's heard of the Fabian Society? Probably a third. Origins in the UK, late 1800s. Founded on the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx. That's their foundation. Now, the Fabian Society will tell you that they are not a communist party. They're a socialist democratic party. But any studier of history will tell you that socialism is one step to communism. And communism, in and of itself, isn't the worst thing in the world. Pretty close. I think Daniel Andrews tops that one, but it's pretty close. But it's the application of communism that killed so many people. So communism, in and of itself, is probably okay in some places. But it's the application. Mao was a communist. 50 million died under him. Lenin, Stalin, they all died. I'm not suggesting for a moment that Labor are killing the people, but I'm suggesting they're suppressing the people and they're taking our land. And they're taking ownership of this country through their corrupt ways. And every person here, I urge you, if you look at the rich men and women who funded the Bolshevik Revolution, who funded the wars, who started the Fed, have a look at them. Know who they are. Because they started the League of Nations. They had all the money they wanted. They got the printing press. Then they started the League of Nations, and the League of Nations became the United Nations. And today with the United... I don't know why I have notes. Today we have the United Nations. And today we have the World Economic Forum, the International Bank of Settlements, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organisation, all these globalists that are there in our best interests. I say no. And Labor is in it up to their armpits. I want to read you two or three clauses here, folks. That's why I brought these pieces. I always have them with me. I did a live with Matty Hopkins the other day. He's in Russia at the moment. G'day, big shout out to Matty. We're going to do a regular catch-up on Sunday and every second Sunday. This is Article 18 of the resolution adopted by the General Assembly on 13th December 2007. This is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. You've heard, any of you people listen to the diatribe that I go on with, I talk about UN DRIP, D-R-I-P. Look it up, download it. This is it here. It's in printer-friendly format as well. Just let me read you what was written in 2017 and tell me if it sounds similar to what you hear today. I don't have glasses, so I'm going to have a crack. Article 18. Indigenous peoples have the right to participate in deciding, in decision-making in matters that would affect their rights through representatives chosen by themselves in accordance with their own procedures, as well as to maintain and develop their own Indigenous decision-making institutions. Makings of a voice to me. Article 19. States shall consult and cooperate in good faith with the Indigenous peoples concerned through their own representative institution in order to obtain their free, prior and informed consent before adopting and implementing legislative and administrative measures that may affect them. That was written in 2007. That there is the voice. That is the voice. And if you go to Article 46.1, which is the damning one, and thank God I've got Matty, who's a lawyer, he can decipher stuff better than I can, I'm just a punter. 46.1, basically, well, I'll read it to you, you can make your own mind up. Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group of person, any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act contrary to the Charter of the United Nations, or construed as authorising or encouraging any action which would dismember or impair, totally or in part, the territorial integrity or political unity of the sovereign and independent states. Nothing in this declaration, this thing gives effect to putting the voice in the Constitution and tearing Australia apart. And you don't need to be blind Freddy to have a look and to see what will happen when they take control of the Indigenous folks, which is why it's so powerful we quote the Indigenous people, because they're the ones, not 2.7% of us, we're 97.3%. They're the ones that are being stolen here, getting ripped off. We've been belted for over 100 years here. We're starting to fight back, thank God, but as you saw with beautiful Karanguri today, they have been fighting this battle for a long time. The other document I want to turn your mind to is this one written in 1976, and it talks about land as a privilege. This is, for me, the primary one. This says to me that the United Nations, who is owned by the world's wealthiest, make note, just look at the World Economic Forum, they have every intention of coming, in my opinion only based on my research, they have every intention coming and exercising this, because we are in the United Nations. We observe the United Nations declarations and articles. And if the voice goes ahead, it may not be the end of the world, like I said, but it certainly will cause a lot of concern for a lot of people. In Western Australia, we saw the Cultural Heritage Act get ripped up because people had a gutful of it. They could see through the thin veil of Labor's lies. But Labor, true to form, has gone back to the 72 legislation and has started amending that. We can never take our eye off the ball, folks. When you're having conversations with people, I had a few today with some Carlton supporters who are playing the Lions tonight at the Gabba behind us here. And one guy said, yeah, I think I'm going to vote yes. I'm really not sure. And all you've got to do is ask them 3 or 4 questions. Don't tell them they're wrong. Just ask them 3 or 4 questions. Why are you voting yes? Why is yes the right thing to do for the country? And why is yes the right thing to do for you? Do you understand the implications of the United Nations articles that are written? They're 3 questions in and of themselves that anyone can answer, and just refer them to this stuff. Because the longer we sit and we don't have those conversations, the more people may decide, yeah, let's just go with the mainstream and vote yes. So I had one more thing I wanted to add here, folks, if you don't mind. Have a look at the Fabian Society. I want to go back to it because it's really critical, because they underpin the Labor Party. And all you need to do is just look at Bob Hawke's speeches or Whitlam's speeches in the Fabian Society. Now, the Fabian Society is a bit like the WWF. Looks really good on the surface. You dive a bit onto it, maybe not so great. And Tricky mentioned this before. Where is the money going? Where is the money going? I want to point you to this. The Fabian Society, who are run by the faceless men and women of the Labor Party, again, based on my research. They are set up under an act and the provisions of the Australia Charities and Not-for-Profit legislation and regulations. Is it possible that the money is being channeled through the not-for-profits? Because that's exactly what the likes of Bill Gates do, George Soros do, and all those other elites, well, I don't want to even call them elites, those with deep pockets. My suspicion is the money is definitely not getting to the grassroots, but it's getting somewhere, and it's not getting to the people needed. Vote no.